So why are we paying so much for fuel? I normally try to stay out of the political stuff and the religious things and things of that nature on this channel. But interestingly, fuel prices, which does have to do with trucking and tow trucking and lots of other things, fuel prices have been going up through the roof. They're sky high now. And I had a guy the other day was talking to me, and he tells me, he says, oh man, he said, did you vote for Trump? And I said, well, really, yes, but what business is that is yours? He said, oh man, I did too, but look what he's doing. He's killing us. These gas prices and fuel prices are going through the roof. It's ruining my trucking company. And I told him, I said, well, if you think about it, if you really boil it down into what's really going on out there, it really is not what Donald Trump is doing in the Middle East. If you know anything about world politics, and again, I usually stay out of this stuff, but I mean, I'm in it, but I don't bring it to my channel. If you know anything about world politics, you know that the Iranians, for the longest time, since 1979, have been saying, they're gonna. And it's just like when that kid shows up at the high school and you know, uses his bing bang and does his job on everybody, and everybody says, I can't believe that, and somebody says, wait a minute, he said I'm gonna until he finally did. Same thing with them. You know, they're building this, they're spinning up the centrifuges, as they say, enriching the uranium for their power sources. They got gobs and gobs of oil, but they're gonna switch over all of a sudden to nuclear power. And the funny thing is, they have to buy the uranium. They don't have it, they have to buy it. So they buy it and spin it up to make it. No, come on. What they want to do, I'm not trying to say they're going to nuke people, but what I'm saying is they want to have the ability to do it. So once they get there, see, then it's much harder. It's like when your child was 3 years old and did something wrong and you spanked him. Now your child's 30 years old, it's much harder to spank him, especially if he's grown up to be 6'3" and a bodybuilder or something. It's going to be hard to put him over your knee at that point. I mean, some of us probably still would, but we'd probably have a lot of damage doing it. So why not stop the problem before it starts? And that's what's happening here. We don't know what all this intelligence is. The guy that quit the Trump administration said, oh, the Iranians weren't doing nothing. And he don't know. That guy has never been in any briefings or anything. He has no idea what they're doing. He watches CNN. CNN said, oh, these are the most wonderful folks in the world over here. Why, that Ayatollah, he's a hoot at Christmas parties. Christmas parties. So what's the reality of it all? The Straits of Hormuz is where most of the world's oil that comes from that region passes through there at some point. And some way or another, that's where the nexus seems to be, is right there. Now, there's plenty of oil that comes out of other places that don't have to go through the Straits. There's plenty of that. But when you shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and you got about 30% of the world's oil that goes through there, maybe higher, but 30% of the world's oil, what happens is it's all supply and demand, right? So if there's a lower supply, high demand, or the demand really hasn't changed, but the supply weakens. So what happens? Then they charge more money. And that's a capitalist society, right? I mean, that's just what happens in capitalism. Capitalism is fantastic at doing lots of stuff. Discovering new medicines, putting a guy on the moon, advancing human life. Societies are way better today than they were before, and all of that is credited to capitalism. But if you boil it down, the United States of America, we have all the oil we need here. We don't have to go anywhere else. In the Anwar province in Alaska, and if you're in trucking, you'll know because there's ice road truckers up there, and I have to know one of the guys that was on ice road trucking. And most of what he did was trucking oil, right? He moved oil from place to place. And he'll tell you, man, there's more oil up there than they know what to do with. I mean, there's oil everywhere. All they do is they can trip over something. It's like the Beverly Hillbillies. Up from the ground came a bubbling crude. There's oil all over the place. All you do is stick a straw on the ground, up comes the oil. Well, during the last administration, if you remember, they banned fracking. They stopped the pipeline coming out of Canada. All these things they did to make it to where we had to buy oil. Well, under the first Trump administration, we had an oil surplus. We were selling oil to Europe, right? And under the second administration, now we have to put back what Biden had taken away, and that takes a little bit of time. So here's the thing. The American oil companies that are charging you more per gallon are reacting to the possibility of paying more for oil coming from overseas. They know that we have enough oil here, but we still buy oil from over there because we want to have some influence, right? So if we're buying oil from Saudi Arabia and we say, hey, we don't like what you did there, we're going to stop buying oil. We even buy oil from Russia because we say, hey, if we don't like what they're doing, say, hey, we're going to stop buying oil from you. That's why you keep hearing Donald Trump say, if he'd have been president, the Ukraine would have never happened, because we were so oil independent and we were selling it into Europe. We had control of the oil markets. They don't make TVs in Russia. They don't make good cars in Russia, right? They make crappy stuff like that in Russia. The one thing the Russians have, they got plenty of oil. And that's the thing. When we cut back on production of oil and it left a hole in the European markets, guess what happens? The Russians come in there, OPEC comes in there, they get flushed with cash. It doesn't take long. When you're selling 100 million barrels a day, it doesn't take long to get a lot of money in the bank. And that's exactly what they did. That's how Joe Biden funded the war, right? He basically cut back on our oil production, so we had to buy more from them, which also left open the European market that we had already created. So what happens? Now the Russians go in and sell all that oil. They make a whole bunch of money. They go buy a bunch of bombs and bullets, and they do what Putin really wanted to do for a long time. Could never seem to put the two things together because he never had enough money to do it. But under Biden, he did. And that's not a political statement. That's a true fact statement. So the problem is not the Straits of Hormuz being shut down because Iran's threatening to bomb anything that comes through. There's a missile, any ship that rolls through there. The insurance companies that insure these ships and their cargo, they're not wanting to insure them. They're raising the prices sky high, which adds to the price of the oil. I mean, everything else goes through that. But what happens is when the American oil companies, they raise their prices, even though they know we have enough oil here, they still raise their prices because they know everywhere else in the world the price is going up, so they bring their prices up, supply and demand. So what they do is they raise their prices. Next thing you know, diesels are getting $5.50, $6.50, $7 a gallon some places. California, we've heard rumors in California of $8 a gallon. We don't go to California, but we've heard rumors of California is $8 a gallon or more in California because they have huge state taxes that they put on their diesel fuel and gasolines out there. It's gigantic amounts. I don't know how people actually live there anymore. I'll be honest with you. It's absolutely nuts. But that's another story. So if you really want to know what's going on here, the reason that fuel prices are going up is not because of the Strait of Hormuz. It's because the Strait of Hormuz has caused the oil prices to go up everywhere else. And the American oil companies are taking advantage of that, and they're raising their fuel cost. They're raising their price per gallon. Now, when I say taking advantage of that, does that mean they're making a killing on it? No, but they are making more money because they can charge more money because we have to get the oil here. We don't have any other way to reduce the oil price, right? So if over there sells it for, they'll say they're selling it for $110 a barrel, $105 a barrel. Well, over here they're going to charge $105 a barrel. Whereas over here they may have been charging $95 a barrel, $10, $11 a barrel. When you're talking millions of barrels a day, that adds up pretty fast, and that's what changes that number at the pump. So, not to be political, it doesn't really have to do with one side or the other. It's just what some people did and what some people didn't do. But what it really does is it really shows you what we really have to do is when Donald Trump ran, he said, what? Drill, baby, drill. Look, we may get all the solar power. We may get all the electric vehicles one day. I doubt it, but let's just say we do get one day. But between now and then, we have to get oil. So that's why we need to get to all that we have. I think it's national security, to be honest with you. I think it's a national security issue that we drill for oil everywhere we can. I mean, if we can drill for oil in somebody's backyard, we should pay them and drill for oil in their backyard. And don't be, so wishy-washy about doing it. Let's just do it. Let's fill these drums up with oil everywhere. And we don't have to worry about the Strait of Hormuz anymore. We don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And then when a country like Iran comes along and threatens us and we're going to shoot bombs and nuclear bombs at you and stuff, we don't have to worry about it. Because what we're going to do then is we're going to just take them out. And the wild thing about it is that when you talk about the Straits of Hormuz and all these oil tankers that go through there, China's starved of oil. What are they doing? They're buying more and more from Russia. Russia's happy to do that. Russia's happy to fill in the gap. Yeah. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. You can leave your comments below-ish. No, I don't filter. So you can leave your comments below as to what you think. But again, it's the American oil companies. They definitely don't have to go to the point they're at, but they are. I'm not going to knock them for it because it is part of the system we're in. I just say hang in there. This is not going to last forever over there. They're already making ends. They're going to get rid of the old regime, which was nuts. They were going to, as soon as they, listen, they already had the missile. They already have the ballistic missiles. Remember the ballistic missile? It goes out of the atmosphere and re-enters the atmosphere. They already have the ballistic missile. It wouldn't take them long to go from ballistic missile to ICBM, or intercontinental ballistic missile, which goes out of the atmosphere and can cruise all the way to the United States or wherever the hell else they want to send it. And next thing you know, you get some Ayatollah in there, and he wants to end it all because he says Allah spoke to him in a dream. Next thing you know, we're having this problem. So don't blame Donald Trump. Don't get on him about this. This is something that had to be done. It's going to hurt for a minute. If you want to complain about anybody, what you should do is you want to complain about the oil companies, write a letter to ExxonMobil, write a letter to Shell, BP, and whoever else is out there, and say, listen, guys, why don't you be patriotic and lower your prices? And I think that's what's fixing to happen next. I think the president's going to start making some calls, and we're going to see that happen. We're going to see that stabilize. They're already getting ready to release some of the oil out of the reserves, which we're going to do, and we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, that's my 15 minutes. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.